The meeting room on Space Station Omega-7 was huge. Its walls were made of clear metal that showed the stars outside. 12 different alien species sat around a long table that could fit 100 people. The air smelled like cleaning chemicals and fear. Jiho Park sat very straight in his chair. He was the only human in the room. His black suit was simple compared to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the aliens around him. He had been a diplomat for 15 years, but this meeting scared him more than any other. Across from him sat Ambassador Thexmol of the Velkari Empire. The Velkari looked like giant bugs with 6 arms and shiny black skin. Thexmol's 4 red eyes never blinked as he stared at Jiho. Next to him was Commander Vextar, whose claws tapped against the table like drumsticks. "The Velkari Empire has done nothing wrong," Thexmol said. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "We simply take what belongs to us." "You have enslaved entire planets," Jiho replied calmly. 3 star systems, billions of people. Vextar laughed. The sound made everyone in the room uncomfortable. "People? You call those weak creatures people? They are tools, nothing more." The other aliens at the table shifted in their seats. The crystal-like Nexari representative, shard singer Quill Neth, made a sound like wind chimes. "The Velkari speak. Truly, the weak serve the strong. This is natural law." Jiho felt his hand shake under the table, but he kept his voice steady. "Every species has the right to be free." "Rights?" Vextar stood up. He was 8 feet tall and his claws were as long as knives. "Rights are for those strong enough to take them. Your species understands this, human. You fought wars on your own planet for thousands of years." "We learned to be better," Jiho said. This made several aliens laugh. The Nexari's laugh sounded like breaking glass. A representative from the Thorac Union, who looked like a walking tree, made deep rumbling sounds. "Humans," Thexmol said slowly, "are perhaps the most foolish species in this galaxy. You think your words can stop us? You think your weak bodies can fight us?" "We are not here to fight," Jiho replied. "We are here to make peace." "Peace." Vextar slammed his fist on the table. The sound echoed through the room. "You speak of peace because you are too slow to make war. Your reaction time is terrible. Your bodies are soft. You cannot even see properly compared to us." The other aliens nodded and made agreeing sounds. Jiho had heard this before. Humans were considered one of the weakest species in the galaxy. Most aliens thought humans were only good for simple jobs like farming or cleaning. High above the meeting room, in the air ducts that carried fresh air throughout the station, someone was listening. Her name was Hana Kim, and she was not supposed to be there. Hana wore the gray jumpsuit of a maintenance worker. Her black hair was tied back and hidden under a cap. She had been crawling through the air ducts for 2 hours, and her knees hurt. But she did not move. She listened to every word. In her hand was a small device that looked like a normal repair tool, but it was actually recording everything the alien said. More importantly, it was scanning for chemicals in the air. And right now it was finding something very bad. 3 levels below the meeting room, Hana had detected traces of Nexium gas. Nexium was a poison that could kill most species in minutes, but it was harmless to Velkari. This was not an accident. Hana pressed a button on her tool. Numbers appeared on a tiny screen. The gas was getting stronger. Someone was preparing to release it into the air system. If that happened, everyone in the meeting room except the Velkari would die. In the meeting room below, the arguments continued. "Let me tell you about humans," Vextar said, walking around the table like a hunter, circling prey. "They take 3 seconds to react to danger. 3 whole seconds. A Velkari can kill 20 times in 3 seconds. Your species is amusing," added Quillneth. "You build machines because your bodies are so useless. You need tools for everything. Without your toys, you are nothing." Jiho tried to stay calm, but anger was building inside him. Not at the insults, but at something else. He had been a diplomat long enough to know when someone was stalling for time, and Thexmol was definitely stalling. "Perhaps we should take a break," Thexmol said suddenly. These discussions are very important. We should think carefully about what we say. We have been talking for 6 hours, said the representative from the Keth Collective, who looked like a walking fish. How much more time do you need? Important decisions cannot be rushed. Thexmol replied smoothly. Jiho watched the Velkari commander carefully. Vextar was looking at his wrist, where Velkari wore their timekeeping devices. He was checking the time every few minutes. They were definitely waiting for something. Up in the air ducts, Hana was moving again. Her scanner showed that the Nexium gas was coming from 12 different places in the station. That meant 12 people were involved in this plan. She had to find them fast. She crawled to a junction where 4 air ducts met. From here, she could access the computer systems that controlled the station. Hana pulled out another tool that looked like a simple wire cutter. She connected it to a panel in the wall. Numbers and words appeared in the air in front of her eyes. This was technology that most aliens did not know humans had. Tiny computers were built into Hana's eyes and brain. They let her see and control electronic systems just by thinking about it. The station's computer showed her everything, where every person was located, what they were carrying, what their jobs were supposed to be, and most importantly, who did not belong. Hana found them quickly. 12 Velkari who were supposed to be cleaning staff, security guards, and food servers. But they were not where they were supposed to be. They were spread out across the station in perfect positions to release gas into the air system. Each one carried equipment that looked normal but contained chemicals. When mixed together, these chemicals would create enough Nexium gas to fill the entire station. Everyone except the Velkari would be dead in minutes. Hana checked the time. The meeting had been going on for 6 hours and 20 minutes. Based on how Vextar kept checking his wrist, she guessed the attack would happen soon. Maybe in the next 15 minutes. Back in the meeting room, Jiho was making one last try for peace. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, he said. The Velkari Empire is strong. You do not need to enslave other species to prove this. You still do not understand, Thexmol said. His voice was almost gentle, like he was talking to a child. This is not about proving anything. This is about taking what we want. And what we want is everything. The other species here have agreed to our terms, Vextar added. They understand that the Velkari Empire will grow. They will join us or be destroyed. It is simple. Jiho looked around the table. The other alien representatives avoided his eyes. They had already given up. They were here to surrender, not to fight. And humans? Jiho asked quietly. Thexmol's 4 red eyes focused on him. Humans will serve us well. You are weak, but you are good at following orders. You will make excellent slaves. In the air ducts above, Hana Kim smiled coldly. The aliens were right about one thing. Humans were slower than most species. They were not as strong. They did not have claws or armor or the ability to see in the dark, but humans had something else. They had the ability to plan ahead. They had technology. And they had the will to do whatever it took to protect the people they cared about. Hana began moving through the air ducts toward her first target. The aliens thought humans could not kill fast enough to matter. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Hana Kim dropped down from the air duct into a maintenance corridor on level 7. Her feet made no sound when they hit the floor. She had practiced moving quietly for so many years that it had become natural, like breathing. The corridor was long and narrow, with pipes and cables running along the walls. Emergency lights cast red shadows everywhere. Hana pulled out her scanner again and checked the positions of the 12 Velkari operatives. The closest one was in the water treatment center, 3 levels down. According to the station records, his name was supposed to be Kixitar, and he was a cleaning supervisor. But Hana's computer implants told her something different. This Velkari had the chemical signature of a trained killer. His body showed signs of military implants and combat drugs. Hana began moving toward the maintenance elevator. As she walked, she thought about what the aliens had said in the meeting room. They were right that humans were slower to react than most species. A Velkari warrior could indeed kill 20 times in the 3 seconds it took a human to realize there was danger. But the aliens had missed something important. Humans did not need to react quickly if they already knew what was going to happen. She reached the elevator and used her tools to override the security system. The doors opened silently. As the elevator carried her down to level 4, Hana reviewed what she knew about Velkari biology. Velkari were strong and fast, but they had weaknesses. Their nervous systems ran on electrical impulses, just like humans. But Velkari electrical systems were much more sensitive. A small electromagnetic pulse that would barely hurt a human could shut down a Velkari's entire body. The elevator stopped at level 4. Hana stepped out into another maintenance corridor. This level smelled like chemicals and recycled water. The water treatment center was 50 meters ahead. Through her computer implants, Hana accessed the station's security cameras. She could see the Velkari operative working near the main water processing unit. He was alone, which was good. He was also carrying a bag that contained chemicals for making Nexium gas, which was very bad. Hana moved closer, staying in the shadows, between the large water pipes. The operative was focused on his work. He had opened a panel in the water processor and was installing something inside. Probably a device that would release the gas into the water supply when he received a signal. She was now only 10 meters away. The operative had not seen her yet, but Velkari had excellent hearing. If she made any noise, he would know she was there. Hana reached into her tool belt and pulled out what looked like a normal maintenance device used for checking electrical systems. But she had modified it. Instead of just detecting electrical problems, it could create them. She pointed the device at the Velkari and pressed a button. A focused electromagnetic pulse shot out, invisible and silent. It hit the operative in the back of his neck, right where his brain stem connected to his spinal cord. The Velkari stiffened. His 6 arms stopped moving. He made a small choking sound, then fell forward into the water processor. The electromagnetic pulse had shut down his nervous system completely. To anyone who found him later, it would look like he had suffered a heart attack while working. 1 down, 11 to go. Hana quickly checked the device the operative had been installing. It was exactly what she had expected. A small container of chemicals that would mix with the water supply and create poison gas. She removed it and crushed it under her boot. Her scanner showed the positions of the other 11 operatives. The next closest one was in the food preparation area on level 6. This one was disguised as a cook, and he was probably planning to put the gas into the air system through the kitchen vents. Back in the meeting room on level 12, the peace talks were continuing. Jiho Park was still trying to find some way to avoid disaster, even though he could feel that something was very wrong. The Velkari Empire is willing to make a small compromise, Thexmol was saying. We will allow the other species to keep some of their worlds. In exchange, they will provide us with workers and resources. You mean slaves and everything they own? Jiho said. Slaves, workers, the words do not matter, Vextar replied. He was still checking his wrist device every few minutes. What matters is that they serve us. The other alien representatives were nodding. They had already given up hope. They were just trying to get the best deal they could before they surrendered. Jiho looked around the table and felt sad. These were representatives of species that had ruled planets and built great cities. Now they were bargaining for the right to exist. Only the human delegation was still fighting. What about Earth? Asked the representative from the Thorak Union. What will happen to the human homeworld? Thexmol's red eyes gleamed. Humans will be very useful. They are weak, but they are good at following complex instructions. They will help us manage the other slave species. We will never help you enslave anyone, Jiho said firmly. You will, Vextar said with confidence. When your choice is slavery or death, you will choose slavery. All species do. On level 6, Hana had found the second operative. This one was more careful than the first. He was working in the main kitchen, but he had positioned himself where he could see all the entrances. His bag was hidden under a food preparation counter, and he kept one hand near a weapon. Hana studied the situation through the security cameras. The kitchen was large and open. There was no way to get close without being seen. and this operative looked more experienced than the first one. If she tried the same electromagnetic pulse attack, he might be fast enough to dodge or to signal for help. She needed a different approach. Hana accessed the station's environmental controls. The kitchen had its own air circulation system to handle cooking smoke and food smells. She could control the air pressure and temperature in that room. She began making small changes. First, she increased the air pressure slightly, not enough for the operative to notice, but enough to make him feel uncomfortable. Then she raised the temperature by 2 degrees. Then she started mixing different gases into the air supply. The gases were not dangerous. They were just normal, atmospheric components in slightly different amounts. But the combination would make the operative feel dizzy and tired without knowing why. After 5 minutes, the Velkari operative began to move more slowly. He rubbed his head with one of his 6 hands. He was having trouble concentrating on his work. That was when Hana struck. She increased the kitchen's gravity field by 50%. On most parts of the station, gravity was set to standard Earth levels, which was comfortable for humans but a little light for most alien species. But Hana could adjust it in individual rooms. The operative suddenly found himself weighing twice as much as normal. His insect-like body, which was built for quick movement in light gravity, could not handle the extra weight. His legs buckled, and he crashed to the floor. The increased gravity combined with the gases Hana had pumped into the air was too much for his system. His breathing became labored, then stopped completely. 2 down. 10 to go. Hana quickly entered the kitchen and removed the operative's bag of chemicals. Inside were more components for making Nexium gas, along with a timing device that would have released them in exactly 7 minutes. She was running out of time. The next operative was in the security control room on level 8. This was going to be more difficult. Security areas had better cameras, more sensors, and backup systems that would detect if anything went wrong. As Hana made her way toward the security level, she thought about what the aliens had said about human reaction times. They were right that humans were slower to respond to immediate threats. But they had forgotten something important about human psychology. Humans were very good at thinking ahead. While other species reacted to what was happening right now, humans spent most of their time thinking about what might happen later. They made plans for problems that had not happened yet. They built tools to solve future problems. The Velkari thought they were setting a trap, but they had actually walked into one. Hana had been on this station for 3 weeks, pretending to be a maintenance worker. In that time, she had mapped every corridor, every room, every system. She had planted small devices in key locations. She had programmed backdoors into the computer systems. She had even made friends with some of the real maintenance workers, so she knew their schedules and routines. The Velkari had planned their attack for months, but Hana had been planning her defense for longer. She reached level 8 and carefully approached the security control room. Through the cameras, she could see the operative inside. He was sitting at a console that controlled all the station's security systems. His bag was on the floor next to his chair, and he was checking a small device that was probably a communicator. This operative was different from the others. He was not just a killer disguised as a worker. He was actually controlling the entire operation. If Hana could capture him alive, she might be able to learn more about the Velkari plan, but capturing him alive would be much more difficult than simply killing him. And every minute she spent on this operative was a minute the others could use to complete their preparations. Hana made her decision. She could not save everyone by being gentle. Sometimes, to protect innocent people, you had to do terrible things to guilty ones. She activated one of the devices she had planted weeks earlier. Hana moved through the station's corridors like a ghost. Her next target was in the power distribution center on level 5. This operative was disguised as an electrical technician, and his job was probably to shut down the air filtration systems when the gas was released. Without air filters, the poison would spread much faster. As she walked, Hana's computer implants showed her the status of all the station's systems. She had been gradually taking control of them over the past 3 weeks. The aliens who ran the station thought their security was perfect, but they had not planned for someone who could connect directly to their computers with her mind. She reached level 5 and found the power center. It was a large room filled with humming machines that provided electricity to the entire station. The operative was working alone at a control panel, his 6 arms moving quickly over the switches and buttons. Through her implants, Hana could see what he was doing. He was installing a virus in the power system that would shut down the air filters in exactly 4 minutes. That meant the gas attack would begin very soon. This operative was too far from any air vents for her to use gas attacks. The room was too well built for her to change the gravity or air pressure. And he was facing the only entrance, so she could not sneak up behind him. Hana decided to use the power system itself as a weapon. She accessed the electrical grid through her implants and began making changes. The operative was touching the metal control panel with his hands. If she sent a large electrical current through that panel, it would kill him instantly. But she had to be careful. Too much electricity would damage the power systems and cause a blackout. Too little would just warn him that someone was attacking. Hana calculated the exact amount of power needed. Velkari bodies could handle about twice as much electricity as humans before dying. She set the current to 3 times the human lethal dose. She activated the trap. The control panel suddenly glowed bright blue as thousands of volts of electricity flowed through it. The operative screamed and fell backward, his body smoking. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. 4 down. 8 to go, but this kill had not been silent like the others. The operative's scream might have been heard by someone else. Hana quickly checked the security cameras for the area around the power center. She saw no one, but that did not mean she was safe. Her next target was 3 levels up in the communications center. This operative was supposed to jam all outside communications when the attack began. That would prevent anyone from calling for help. Hana took the elevator to level 8, moving quickly but carefully. As the elevator rose, she used her implants to check the positions of the remaining operatives. They were all still in their assigned places, which was good. It meant they had not realized their friends were dying. The communications center was smaller than the power room, but it was more heavily protected. There were cameras watching every entrance, and the door was locked with both electronic and physical security systems. Hana did not try to break in. Instead, she went to the ventilation shaft above the communications center and removed one of the air filters. In its place, she installed a small device that looked exactly like the original filter but contained a surprise. The device released a cloud of tiny metal particles into the air system. These particles were so small they could not be seen, and they were made of a metal that conducted electricity very well. When the particles reached the communications center, they spread throughout the room. The operative breathed them in without noticing. The particles settled on all the electronic equipment in the room. Then Hana activated another one of her prepared devices. This one sent out a focused microwave signal that made all the metal particles heat up suddenly. The particles in the air became hot enough to burn the operative's lungs from the inside. The particles on the equipment caused all the communication systems to overload and explode. The operative died choking on superheated metal, and all the communications equipment was destroyed at the same time. From the outside, it would look like a terrible accident caused by faulty equipment. 5 down. 7 to go. In the meeting room, Jiho Park was still trying to find a peaceful solution, but he could tell that time was running out. Vextar was no longer bothering to hide his excitement. The Velkari commander kept looking at his wrist device and smiling with his sharp teeth. "Perhaps we should end these discussions soon," Thexmol said. "I believe we have reached an understanding." "We have reached nothing," Jiho replied. "The human government will never agree to slavery." "The human government will not have a choice," Vexitar said. His red eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Very soon, there will be changes in the balance of power." The other alien representatives looked confused. They did not understand what Vextar meant, but Jiho was starting to figure it out. The Velkari were not just planning to force the other species to surrender. They were planning to make it impossible for anyone to say no. Jiho wished he could warn someone, but there were Velkari guards at every exit from the meeting room. If he tried to leave or call for help, they would stop him immediately. 2 levels below the meeting room, Hana was hunting her 6th target. This operative was in the medical center, probably planning to poison the emergency medical supplies. If people started getting sick from the gas, The medical center would be useless to help them. The medical center was always busy, even late at night like this. There were doctors and nurses from several different species working there. Hana could not use explosives or electrical attacks without risking innocent lives. She needed to be more direct this time. Hana entered the medical center through a maintenance entrance, wearing her repair worker uniform. No one paid attention to her. Maintenance workers were almost invisible to most people. They were so common that nobody really noticed them. She found her target in the pharmacy, where all the medicines were stored. He was alone, working at a computer terminal. His bag was open on the counter next to him, and she could see chemical containers inside. Hana walked up behind him, carrying a toolbox in one hand and what looked like a medical scanner in the other. The scanner was actually a weapon, but it looked harmless. "Excuse me," she said in a quiet voice. "I need to check the power connection to this terminal." The operative turned around to look at her. For a moment, his 4 red eyes stared directly into her face. Hana felt a moment of fear. If he realized, she was not really a maintenance worker. He could kill her with his bare claws before she could defend herself, but the disguise held. To him, she was just another invisible human worker. He moved aside without saying anything. Hana knelt down next to the computer terminal as if she was checking the power cables. The operative went back to his work. That was when she activated her weapon. The medical scanner shot a focused beam of radiation directly at the operative's brain. The radiation was designed to disrupt the electrical activity in nerve cells. The operative collapsed immediately, appearing to have suffered a stroke. 6 down, 6 to go. But as Hana was leaving the medical center, she almost ran into a problem. One of the real maintenance workers, a friendly thorac named Bilkron, who she had spoken to several times, saw her leaving the pharmacy. "Hana!" Bilkron called out. "What are you doing in the medical center? I thought you were assigned to the upper levels today." Hana's mind raced. If Bilkron became suspicious and reported her, it could ruin everything. She had to think of a believable explanation. "Emergency repair," she said, holding up her toolbox. "Power fluctuation in the pharmacy computers. They called it in an hour ago." Bilkron nodded. "Ah, yes. I heard about some electrical problems. Did you find the source?" "Just a loose connection," Hana replied. "Should be fine now." As they spoke, Hana's implants were showing her the positions of the remaining 6 operatives. They were getting ready for the final phase of their attack. She needed to move faster. "I should go," she told Bilkron. "More repairs to do." "Of course. See you later, Hana." As she walked away, Hana felt terrible about lying to someone who had been kind to her. Bilkron was a good person who worked hard to keep the station running safely. If the Velkari plan succeeded, he would die along with everyone else. That thought made her more determined. She could feel guilty about her methods later. Right now, she had to focus on saving lives. Her 7th target was in the cargo bay on level 2. This operative was disguised as a loading supervisor, and he was probably planning to release gas into the air system through the cargo bay's large ventilation fans. The cargo bay was enormous, filled with containers and loading equipment. It was one of the most open areas on the station, which made it difficult to approach without being seen. But it also gave Hana more options for creative attacks. She made her way to the control room that overlooked the cargo bay. From there, she could operate the loading cranes and other heavy equipment. She could also see her target clearly. The operative was working near a large ventilation fan, installing something that looked like an air purification device. But Hana's scanners showed it was actually a gas dispersal system. Hana took control of one of the loading cranes through her computer implants. The crane was designed to lift containers that weighed several tons. She carefully positioned it above the operative, then released a heavy cargo container. Hana ran through the corridors faster than she had ever moved before. Her computer implants showed her that she had less than 90 seconds before the gas attack was supposed to begin. 5 operatives were still alive, and they were in the most protected areas of the station. She reached the central elevator and used her tools to override the controls. The elevator shot upward toward level 9 where the main security office was located. As she rose, Hana made a desperate decision. She could not eliminate 5 targets in 90 seconds using careful, quiet methods. She would have to take bigger risks. That meant alarms might sound. That meant people might see her. That meant she might not survive. But if she failed, everyone on the station would die anyway. The elevator doors opened on level 9. Hana stepped out into a corridor lined with security cameras and motion sensors. Normally, she would have been very careful to avoid detection. Now she ignored the cameras completely. She ran straight to the security office door and pulled out a device that looked like a simple electronic key. It was actually a military-grade hacking tool that could break through almost any lock in seconds. The door opened. Inside, she saw the 8th operative sitting at a wall of monitor screens. He was watching cameras throughout the station, looking for any signs of trouble. On one of the screens, she could see herself running down the corridor. The operative spun around in his chair as she entered. His 4 red eyes went wide with surprise. He reached for a weapon, but Hana was already moving. She threw her hacking tool at his head like a knife. The device hit him in the face with a loud crack. Before he could recover, she grabbed a heavy monitor from the desk and smashed it down on his skull. The operative fell to the floor and did not move. 8 down. 4 to go. 60 seconds left. But now alarms were starting to sound. The security system had detected the fight in the office. Red lights flashed throughout the station, and a recorded voice began announcing that there was an emergency. Hana ran back to the elevator, but it was no longer responding to her controls. The security lockdown was activating automatically. She would have to find another way to reach her remaining targets. She kicked open a maintenance panel in the wall and pulled out the emergency ladder that ran between floors. The ladder was designed for emergencies when the elevator stopped working. She began climbing up toward level 11, where the air circulation control room was located. As she climbed, Hana could hear sounds of confusion throughout the station. People were shouting questions. Security guards were running through the corridors. The station's computer was trying to figure out what was causing the emergency, but the 4 remaining Velkari operatives would not be confused. They would know that their plan had been discovered. They would try to activate their weapons immediately, even if they were not ready. Hana reached level 11 and forced open the maintenance panel. She found herself in a corridor filled with pipes and machinery that controlled the station's air supply. The air circulation control room was 50 meters away, behind a locked blast door. She could not break through a blast door with her tools, but she did not need to get inside the room. She just needed to stop the operative from using the air system to spread poison gas. Hana found the main air circulation pipe that led to the control room. She pulled out her most powerful explosive device, something she had been saving for the worst emergency. It was small, but very dangerous. If she used it wrong, it could cause a major decompression that would kill everyone in this section of the station. She attached the explosive to the air pipe and set a timer for 5 seconds. Then she ran as fast as she could toward the nearest emergency shelter. The explosion was loud and violent. The air pipe burst apart, sending pieces of metal flying through the corridor. Emergency barriers slammed down to prevent the station's atmosphere from escaping into space. The 9th operative, trapped in the control room, would now have no way to spread gas through the air system. Even if he activated his weapon, the gas would be contained in one small room, 9 down, 3 to go. 30 seconds left, but the explosion had made things worse for Hana. The corridor she was in was now sealed off by emergency barriers. She was trapped between 2 blast doors with no way out. Or was she? Hana looked up at the ceiling. There was an emergency access hatch that led to the space between floors. It was designed to let repair workers reach the area in emergencies. She used her tools to open the hatch and pulled herself up into a narrow space filled with pipes and cables. From here, she could access the emergency systems control room on level 10. The operative there was planning to lock down the station, so no one could escape when the gas was released. Hana had to stop him before he sealed all the exits. She crawled through the narrow space as fast as she could. Through the floor below her, she could hear the sounds of people panicking. The alarms were getting louder. Security teams were trying to figure out what was happening. She found an access panel that led down into the emergency systems control room. Through the panel, she could see the 10th operative working frantically at a computer terminal. He was trying to activate the station's emergency lockdown procedures. Hana did not have time for a careful plan. She opened the access panel and dropped down into the room directly behind the operative. He heard her land and spun around. For a moment, they stared at each other. The operative was bigger and stronger than her, with 6 arms ending in sharp claws. But Hana had something he did not expect. She had spent years learning to fight aliens who were bigger and stronger than humans. The secret was not to fight them on their terms. Humans could not win with strength or speed. They had to win with intelligence and unpredictability. The operative lunged at her with his claws extended. Hana dropped to the floor and rolled between his legs. As she rolled, she pulled a small device from her tool belt and activated it. The device was an ultrasonic emitter that produced sound waves too high for humans to hear, but painful for most alien species. The operative screamed and grabbed his head with all 6 hands. The sound was disrupting his nervous system. While he was distracted, Hana grabbed a heavy wrench from a tool rack on the wall. She swung it as hard as she could at the operative's knee joint. There was a loud crack as his leg broke. The operative fell down, still screaming from the ultrasonic attack. Hana hit him in the head with the wrench until he stopped moving. 10 down, 2 to go, 10 seconds left. But she was out of time. The last 2 operatives were in places she could not reach in 10 seconds. One was in the central computer core on level 12, right next to the diplomatic meeting room. The other was inside the meeting room itself. Hana made a final desperate decision. She could not stop the last 2 operatives from activating their weapons, but she might be able to minimize the damage they caused. She ran to the emergency systems control panel that the 10th operative had been using. Her computer implants connected to the station's main systems, giving her control over everything from gravity to air pressure to power distribution. If she could not prevent the gas attack, she would have to neutralize the gas itself. Hana began, flooding the entire station with a mixture of gases that would neutralize Nexium poison. It was dangerous. Too much of the neutralizing gas could be harmful to humans and other species. But it was less dangerous than the Nexium. At the same time, she activated every air filter and purification system on the station. She increased air circulation to maximum levels. She even opened some of the emergency vents that led directly to space, creating a powerful wind that would blow any poison gas out of the station. In the diplomatic meeting room, Vexitar suddenly stood up from his chair. His wrist device was flashing red, which meant something had gone wrong with the plan. "There seems to be a problem," he said to Thexmol. "What kind of problem?" the ambassador asked. Before Vexitar could answer, the 11th operative, the one in the computer core, activated his weapon. A small cloud of Nexium gas began spreading through the computer room. But instead of spreading throughout the station as planned, the gas was immediately sucked out through the air vents. The powerful circulation system that Hana had activated was pulling the poison away from the populated areas and venting it into space. At the same time, the neutralizing gases that Hana had released were mixing with the Nexium and breaking it down into harmless components. In the meeting room, the 12th and final operative, who was disguised as a Nexari translator named Silquen, realized that the plan had failed. He reached into his robes and pulled out a small device that contained the last batch of poison gas. Jiho Park saw the movement and finally understood what was happening. The Velkari had not come here to negotiate. They had come here to kill everyone. "Look, out," Jiho shouted. "He has a weapon." The fake translator activated his device, releasing a cloud of gas into the meeting room, but the gas was immediately pulled away by the air circulation system. Instead of spreading throughout the room, it was sucked up into the air vents and carried away. The other alien representatives began shouting and running for the exits. Vexitar and Thexmol tried to escape, but the doors were locked. In the confusion, no one noticed that the translator who had released the gas was actually a Velkari in disguise. No one except Jiho Park, who was staring directly at the operative. Hana sat in the emergency control room, her hands moving quickly over the computer panels. Through the security cameras, she could see chaos in the diplomatic meeting room. Alien representatives were shouting and running around. Some were trying to escape through locked doors. Others were demanding answers from the Velkari delegation. But Hana was not watching the chaos. She was watching the fake translator who had released the gas. He was still standing near his seat, trying to blend in with the panicking aliens. But Hana could see through his disguise. The operative's name was Zekmoth, and he was not just a regular soldier. According to the files Hana had stolen from Velkari computers weeks ago, he was a high-ranking intelligence officer. He knew details about other Velkari operations throughout the galaxy. Hana could not let him escape, but she also could not simply kill him like the others. The meeting room was full of witnesses, including Jiho Park and representatives from 11 other species. If she murdered someone in front of all of them, it would cause a diplomatic disaster. She needed a different approach. She needed to expose the truth in a way that would make everyone understand what the Velkari had been planning. Hana accessed the station's main communication system. Every screen, speaker, and display throughout the station was connected to this system. She could broadcast a message to everyone at once. But first, she had to gather evidence. Her computer implants connected to the station's security network. She began downloading video recordings from the past hour. The cameras had recorded everything: the 11 operatives she had killed, their weapons, their poison gas components, their hidden positions throughout the station. She also accessed the chemical sensors throughout the station. These sensors had detected traces of nexium gas in 12 different locations. The readings proved that a coordinated attack had been planned. Finally, she hacked into the Velkari communication devices. The operatives had been sending messages to each other and to someone off the station. These messages contained detailed plans for the assassination, including timing, targets, and escape routes. With all this evidence collected, Hana began her broadcast. Every screen on the station suddenly displayed the same image: a recording of one of the Velkari operatives installing a gas dispersal device in the water treatment center. The audio system played the intercepted communications between the operatives, including their discussions of which species would be killed first. In the meeting room, everyone stopped shouting and stared at the screens. They could see clear proof that the Velkari had been planning to murder them all. "This is impossible," Thexmol said, but his voice was shaky. "These recordings must be fake." The chemical sensors detected poison gas in 12 locations throughout the station, Hana's voice said through the speakers. She was disguising her voice with electronic filters so no one would recognize it. The gas was designed to kill all non-Velkari species. More evidence appeared on the screens: recordings of operatives with their weapons, intercepted messages discussing the attack, chemical analysis of the poison gas components. Vextar tried to run toward the door, but it was sealed shut. All the exits from the meeting room had been locked automatically when the emergency began. "The attack has already been stopped," Hana's voice continued. 11 Velkari operatives have been eliminated. Their weapons have been neutralized, but there is still one operative in this room with you. Everyone in the meeting room looked around suspiciously. The alien representatives began backing away from the Velkari delegation, but they did not know who the hidden operative was. "Turu, operative is disguised as Silquen, the Nexari translator," Hana announced. All eyes turned to the fake translator, who was still standing near his chair. For a moment he tried to maintain his disguise. "This is ridiculous," he said in a voice that sounded like the crystal singing speech of the Nexari. "I am Silquen. I have been translating for this meeting all day." "Silquen died 3 days ago, in his quarters," Hana's voice replied. "His body is hidden in storage compartment 7G. The person standing in his place is Velkari intelligence officer Zekmoth." The screens showed a recording of the real Silquen being killed in his quarters. They showed Zekmoth taking the translator's place. They showed him installing holographic disguise equipment. The fake translator realized his cover was blown. He dropped the holographic disguise that had made him look like a Nexari. The crystal-like appearance faded away, revealing the black, insect body of a Velkari. The other alien representatives screamed and backed away. Some of them tried to attack Zekmoth, but he was trained for combat. His 6 clawed arms kept them at a distance. "You cannot stop the Velkari Empire," Zekmoth shouted. "This was just the beginning. We have operations on 50 worlds. We will enslave every species in the galaxy." "Not anymore," Hana's voice said calmly. The screens changed again. Now they showed recordings from Velkari military computers. Hana had not just been defending this one station. For the past 3 weeks, she had been hacking into Velkari networks throughout their empire. The screens showed the locations of secret Velkari bases. They showed plans for attacks on other worlds. They showed lists of species marked for slavery or extinction. They showed the names and positions of Velkari agents throughout the galaxy. This information is being broadcast to every government, every military force, and every news organization in the galaxy, Hana announced. "The Velkari Empire's secret operations have been exposed." Thexmol's face went pale. "You have doomed us all. When the Empire learns what happened here, they will send fleets to destroy this entire sector." "The Empire is not coming," Hana replied. "Their fleet commanders are too busy dealing with rebellions on their slave worlds. Rebellions that began exactly 17 minutes ago, when every enslaved species received detailed information about Velkari military positions and weaknesses." The screen showed scenes from across Velkari space. On dozens of worlds, slave populations were rising up against their masters. They were using information that Hana had provided to strike at Velkari bases and command centers. The Velkari Empire was not just losing this station, it was losing its entire empire. Jiho Park stared at the screens in amazement. How is this possible? How could one person do all of this? Hana smiled, even though no one could see her. The Velkari were right about humans being slow to react, but they forgot that humans plan ahead. "I have been preparing for this operation for 6 months, not 6 hours." The evidence on the screens was overwhelming. Every species in the galaxy could see proof of what the Velkari had been planning. They could see the extent of Velkari slavery operations. They could see how close they had all come to being destroyed. But most importantly, they could see that humanity had saved them. In the meeting room, Zekmoth made one last desperate attempt to escape. He pulled out a small explosive device and threatened to kill everyone in the room. "Release me or I will detonate this bomb," he shouted. "The bomb has been deactivated," Hana's voice said calmly. "I took control of all Velkari equipment on the station 23 minutes ago." Zekmoth pressed the button on his device. Nothing happened. The bomb was dead. Security teams finally managed to break through the locked doors. They poured into the meeting room and surrounded the remaining Velkari. Thexmol, Vextar, and Zekmoth were taken into custody. As the security teams led them away, Thexmol looked around the room with his 4 red eyes. "You think you have won?" he said to Jiho Park. "But humans are still weak. You still cannot fight. Us in direct combat, you had to hide and use tricks." Jiho smiled. "You never understood humans at all. We do not fight like other species. We do not need to be the strongest or the fastest. We just need to be smart enough to turn your own strength against you." "This was not a fair fight," Vextar complained, as the security teams dragged him toward the door. "War is never fair," Jiho replied. "That is why humans try to avoid it. But when someone forces war on us, we do not fight fair either. We fight to win." After the Velkari were removed, the other alien representatives slowly returned to the meeting table. They looked at Jiho Park with new respect. Some of them looked frightened. "What will happen now?" asked the representative from the Thorak Union. "Now, we rebuild," Jiho said. "The Velkari Empire is finished. Their slave worlds are free. The galaxy is safer for everyone." "And humanity?" asked the Nexari representative who had replaced the murdered Silquin. "What does humanity want in return? For saving us all?" Jiho thought about this carefully. "We want the same thing we have always wanted. Peace. Freedom for all species. The right to exist without fear." "You could demand anything," the Thorak said. "After what you have done today, every species in the galaxy owes humanity a debt." "We do not want to rule anyone," Jiho replied. "We do not want slaves or tribute or territory. We just want to be left alone to live our lives." In the emergency control room, Hana was preparing to leave. Her work was done. The station was safe. The galaxy was safer. She had completed her mission, but she was also exhausted. The past hour had required her to kill 11 people, even though they were enemies who would have killed thousands of innocents. She had made difficult choices and would have to live with them for the rest of her life. As she gathered her tools and prepared to disappear back into the station's maintenance areas,